Hello and welcome to this short video introducing the MYP's personal project. So in a nutshell, the personal project is a long project that the students do in the final year of the MYP on a topic of their choosing. So according to the IB, here are the aims. It's a sustained self-directed inquiry within a global context. It's helping them to develop a deeper understanding through investigation. It's helping them develop their skills, attitudes, and knowledge. It's helping them communicate in a variety of different methods. They are hopefully going to have some sort of action as a result of their learning, which could be just making a product or outcome. It could be volunteering, raising money, etc. as well. And they're going to focus, when they reflect at the end, on their learning throughout the process. So often students really focus more on the product or outcome, and here, if you can see, the aims doesn't really focus on making a product. It is the thing that people see and it is the thing that people talk about, but it's not the big picture. So for example, I had a student before who looked at how grade 10 is an incredibly stressful time for a lot of students, and she explored all the different ways that we can tackle stress. She spoke to counsellors about stress, she surveyed her peers. In the end, she decided to grow herbs in the garden, and she made tea, which every time we had an extended piece about personal project or they had exams or deadlines, she would have this relaxing tea to support her peers. Another student really wanted to explore the history and mathematics behind Islamic art. She produced several artworks, however, it's more about learning that rich history. I had another student who he looked at representation of different ethnicities, genders, races, religions, etc. in animation, and he analysed loads of animations. He looked at diversity in the media in general, and then he also made an animation as his final product. I have another student who is really focusing on what it is to be American as an international student, and then actually her big picture was exploring displaced people or refugees, so what is their experience of America and their experience of identity. Her final project was an exhibition where all the artwork was made by young refugees who had just moved to America. But as you can see, her product or her final project was not just an exhibition or holding an art class, but there's a lot more rich learning that went into that. So really the process is what's important over the product or outcome. We want students to extend their knowledge and understanding, to develop new skills and attitudes, and again to focus on the process. So even though, for example, that student made their artwork about Islamic math, if she was just reflecting on that, maybe that only took her a day or two to make. Whereas if she's reflecting on the whole process, her whole learning journey throughout that year, you can see that's much bigger and much more impressive. Now here I've talked about developing skills and attitudes. Skills, it can be technical skills. So for example, if a student is learning about photo manipulation, they might learn the skills of using Photoshop. However, the big skills that are at the heart of the IB are the approaches to learning. That's communication, social, self-management, thinking, and research skills. So students really should be developing those throughout this process, and actually when they come to write the report, those 5 ATLs are specifically mentioned. Attitudes as well is reflecting on the IB learner profile, which are 10 attributes we want all students and teachers to have, including being caring, being a communicator, being balanced. And students should be very familiar with those because they hear about them all the time, and also if they have gone to an IB school for primary, if they've done PYP, they will know as well. Now obviously students have those impressive products at the end of their report, at the end of their project. But throughout that, they should be keeping a process journal to document all the process that goes on, from analysing their research through to interviewing people, through to brainstorming, through to planning, through to dealing with the unexpected. They should show this at every meeting with their supervisor. If you're a parent, ask your student, if they're telling them, how's a personal project? Oh, let me see that in your process journal. Because sometimes students don't document everything, and that really, really, really is the best advice I can give any students. Document everything you do. The process journal as well, it's something that's begun at the beginning of the process. It's for the student, so it documents all their planning, everything they do throughout. it's not kept on a daily basis. It's not, dear diary, today I did this, but it might be fabrics, swatches of fabric stuck into a process journal with annotations saying which fabric they might use for the dress they're going to design. It's not written up at the end, it's done throughout, and it's not additional work that comes on the end of the project. And it basically it will look very different depending on the student and depending on the topic. It could be cutouts from magazines through to reports from science experiments. When they come to write the final report, students will choose 10 process journal entries as evidence in their report. That does not mean they should have only 10 process journal entries, because really they're going to use the rest of the process journal to help them remember things they've done 6 months ago or 5 months ago. So that will help them actually document and write their final report anyway. Each student links their project closely to a global context: person development, personal and cultural expression, orientation in space and time, globalization and sustainability, identities and relationships, or scientific and technical innovation. Students should be aware that every single unit they do in the MYP, in every single subject, each unit relates to one of these global contexts. In every subject, we have to explore all. So if you're a science teacher, every unit is not scientific and technical innovation, but we cover all 6. So hopefully students are familiar with these. They also need to look at more detail. They need to look at the description and the explorations. I have more presentations about this and information to support them during that. And this is something they talk about throughout the whole report. It should be something that when you talk to them in the corridor about their personal project, it's really, really clear. Because this is what makes their personal project, a small thing they're doing themselves, making maybe one product that they show a handful of people. This is what makes it important, kind of big picture. Lastly, they're going to write this long report. It's actually what's graded, but they do talk about the things in their process journal. They do talk about their final products in there. They have to have evidence for all their strands, and there are 12 strands across 4 criterion. All the criterion are really focused on the process. So the first part is investigating, so developing their goal. Next part is talking about the prior learning they've had in school and then showing off their research. The next part, planning. This is about what they had to do in order to make their product or outcome. The kind of criteria or checklist for this product or outcome. All the different steps they had to do. So if their final product is going to be making a Japanese children's book to teach English people Japanese, maybe part of that process is doing Duolingo Japanese, or maybe going to a Japanese workshop, or maybe analysing 20 children's books. And also their self-management skills. Self-management is not just time management, it can include other types of organisation. It can include even things like affective skills, so dealing with stress. The last part, part C, criterion C is taking action, so creating that product. What steps do they have to do? What new vocabulary have they learnt through doing it? What skills do they develop? Strand 2 and Strand 3 in criterion C, thinking, communication and social. Those are 3 of those ATLs I mentioned earlier, and they might sound quite vague. For example, reflecting on thinking skills, that might sound like, I know I think all the time, but I don't know how to document that. Luckily, the IB have broken each of the ATLs down into really tangible, practical indicators. So, for example, thinking skills might be managing risk, or it might be interpreting data. And the last part is criterion D, reflecting. So it's evaluating the final product or outcome against their criteria, reflecting on how their knowledge and understanding has grown in relation to the topic and global context, and how they have developed as an IB learner. Super, super easy. If they have a process journal that is full, if they've worked hard on this throughout the process, then it's going to be so easy to write the report. And finally, we celebrate at the exhibition. The exhibition is a chance to present the work to others. It's the chance to discuss with younger students. So, for example, grade 9 who are just starting their personal project, to give them advice. And really, it's a chance to celebrate the learning that they have done. Hopefully, that was a quick introduction to personal project. If you want more detail about anything, check out their course or come and see me.